Assalamu alaikum guys, welcome to today's lecture. This is chapter 10, lesson 7. We're talking about box plots, or they're also called box and whiskers plots. I'm more than sure you've seen some type of these graphs. So today we're going to learn how to create them and how to interpret them a little bit. This will come back next year, so I'm not too concerned, but at least you will learn how to create them today. So basically a box plot is a type of graph that shows how the data is spread out. And we're going to be creating that by having or identifying the 5-number summary. What does a 5-number summary mean? Basically, they give you a data set. You need to get the least value out of the data set. You need to get what is called the first quartile. You also need to get the median, the third quartile, and the greatest value. So those are the 5 things. And if you notice, there's 5 dots on the box plot or on the box and whiskers plot that shows you how the data is spread out. So one of the things that you need to understand, the first quartile, the third quartile, just the word quartile tells you quarters, right? So basically what the box plot shows is how the data is spread out in quarters. So from the least value to the first quartile, this is 25% of the data. Now, it could be 4 or 5 data items in between, it could be 2, it just depends on the number of data values that you have. From the first quartile to the median, because the number in the middle is called the median, is another 25% of the data. And then from the median to the third quartile is another 25%, and then from the third quartile to the greatest value, that's another 25%. So basically what that means, all of this data creates 100% of the data. Now another thing that we're going to be introduced to or deal with is the interquartile range. And that is going to be called the IQR. So when you hear the word IQR, or rather the acronym IQR, it just means interquartile range. The interquartile range is different from the range of a data set. You've already learned what the range of a data set is, which is the difference between the greatest and the least value, right? So today we'll learn how do we figure out what the IQR is. So let's come to this example over here, and I'm probably going to have to adjust my camera just a little bit so you can see all the information that you need. So here we go. So your instructions are to create a box and whiskers plot. You need to determine the IQR and range, and the example says minutes spent on doing homework. So the values given to you are 15, 83, 75, 12, 19, 74, and 21. So we have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 data items. You got to keep track of that too. So the first thing that you need to do, as you did for, especially when we're dealing with median, go ahead and arrange your data in numerical order from least to greatest. Okay? So in the data set, the least value that we have is 12. Followed by 15, and of course you can cross them out as you go, as you're working on it. The next items are 19, 21, and we also have 74, 75, and 83. So here's my data set arranged in numerical order. I'm just going to go ahead and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I'm ready to go. All right, so some of the answers are really easy to answer just like that. Obviously, once we have it in order, what's the least value? The least value on here is 12. So I can go ahead and write 12 minutes. Okay, remember, we're talking about time. Now, the other easy one is the greatest value, 83 minutes, right? So we can write 83 minutes as our answer. Now, remember that median, how did we do median? It was 7 divided by 2, which is 3.5. That means that the 4th number in the order is the median. So 1, 2, 3, 4. The median in this data set is 21. So median is 21. All right. Now, on this data set, you have an odd number of data items. The difference between odd and the even, it's going to change a little bit, so keep track. So I'm going to write a note right here that these are odd number. So you can remember, odd means basically you have 7 data items. 7 is an odd number. Now, what ends up happening when you get the first and the third quartile, what you're gonna do, when you have odd, okay, when you have odd, don't include the median when you're trying to figure out the first quartile or the third quartile. And basically the first quartile is the median of the first part of the data, and the third quartile is the median of the second part of the data. So remember, when you have odd, do not include that middle value when you're trying to find the median. So on the first set, what is the median between 12, 15, and 19? The median is 15. So the first quartile is 15 minutes. What is the median between 74, 75, and 83? The middle value is 75, so 75 minutes. All right? So now you have your 5-number summary, 12, 15, 21, 75, and 83. So the next thing to do, go ahead and create your graph. So, of course, we're going by tens on the graph. Estimate roughly where the value is at. So the first one is 12. I'm going to estimate that 12 is about right here, okay? And then the next value is 15, and I know that the values are very close to each other, but just estimate where you think it's at. The next value is 21. Estimate where that dot goes. The next value is 75. Roughly estimate where it goes. And then the next value is 83. And here is your 5 data summary, right? So the next thing you need to do is on the last 2 data items, go ahead and create a whisker, okay? And the first 2, create the whisker. Those are what are called the whiskers of the box plot. Then on the second data item, create a box all the way. And unfortunately, I don't have a ruler with me, guys, but you know what I mean. Create a straight line all the way to your third quartile. And we're going to create a box. And of course, this box is kind of floating on top of the number line. I know I touched the line a little bit, but it's okay. And then don't forget that the median, which is this value right here, create a line that goes up and down on it too. So that's the median. And let me recreate this a little bit. So the median is right here, and just create a straight line. So there you have it, guys. You have the whiskers, which are the little antennas sticking out. That's what they're called, whiskers. And then you have your median, and then a box plot from the first to the third quartile, right? So now, when you're doing these type of graphs too, don't forget that it needs a title, okay? Title, we were talking about homework. So we can type, or rather label, and call this homework. Now, what do the values on the bottom mean? Number of minutes. So don't forget to go ahead and label. So when a person is reading your graph, they know what you're talking about, okay? So homework, number of minutes, and then you can read. So if you're asked to interpret this, say that somebody created this, you know they're talking about homework, number of minutes, and then you can roughly estimate what was my least value, what was my greatest value, what's the median of the data, and so on and so forth. Now the IQR, that's the interquartile range. The IQR is basically the range of the box, not the range of the data. That's different. So the IQR is the range of the box. And how did we create the box? From the first quartile to the third quartile. So basically it's the difference from the third quartile and first quartile. So the third quartile was 75 minutes, and the first quartile was 15 minutes. So when you find the difference between 75 and 15, the IQR is 60 minutes. All right? So my IQR is 60 minutes. Now the range of the data. The range of the data, you go back to previous lesson, the difference between the greatest and the least value. So the greatest value was 83. We're going to subtract 12. And then what's 83 minus 12? 71. So 71 minutes. So there you go. That's how you create a box plot. Now, other questions that you can be asked, you know, other than what's the least value when you read a graph, or what's the greatest value, or what's the median, first quartile or third quartile. They can also ask you, how is the data spread out? You're not going to be doing that, but I do want you to become familiar that when you hear it later on, if you have to look at the data, remember we did say that the data is in quarters. So the quarter right here from the first little dot to the second dot, which is the least value to the first quartile, that's 25% of the data. And then the 50% of the data goes from the least to the median. So 50% of the data is really kind of like concentrated between 11 and 21 minutes, remember? And then we can say also that the other 50% from 21 minutes, maybe you have some harder classes that you spend actually more time doing homework, was 75 to 84 on the range, right? Or rather 83. So 50% of the data is spread out more on the upper half than the lower half, okay? So those can be questions that you will be asked. So now let's go ahead and say that you have, let's do now actually an example where you have a data set that has an even number. So you're going to notice how it changes a little bit when you have even number of data that you have to deal with. So I'm hoping that you're taking notes because it does change and it does matter. So let's say that we're talking about your earnings as a babysitter. So babysitting earnings, and we're talking about dollar amounts, okay? So the values given were 75, 61, 88, 79, another 79, and 99.63, and the last value is 77. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 data items, okay? So this is for even. So we'll write even up here. So how does it change? Now this could be babysitting money over, 8 weeks, just depends, what people pay and how many kids were babysat. But anyways, first thing you need to do, just like the other one, go ahead and arrange in order. So in order, the least value is 61. The next value is 63, followed by 75, then 77, then 79, then another 79, followed by 88, and the final value, 99. Just make sure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There we have it. So again, we're going to go ahead and get our least value. Least value is $61. Greatest value is $99. Now the median. So remember that we said that there's a total of 8. 8 divided by 4 is, 8 divided by 2 is 4. So that means that the median is between the 4th and the 5th number. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So my median is between 77 and 79. Of course, this one is easy, guys. We know that the median between 77 and 79, because it's the number right in the middle, is 78. But if it was numbers that were so separated as you've done in the past, median, you add the two numbers, divide by 2, and then you get your median, okay? So in this case, we know that it's common sense. Number between 77 and 79 is 78. Okay, so the median is $78. Now, here's where it changes as far as how do I find my first quartile, the median of the first quartile, and the median of for the third quartile. So what you do, since we know that the data is split in half, okay, we do not exclude any numbers on this one because it's even. The only time we exclude a value is when it's odd. So what you're going to do now is find the median between the first data items, first 4, and that's for the first quartile. For the third quartile, you're gonna find the median between these four numbers. And obviously it's 4, so I'm gonna find the median between these two numbers for the first quartile and these two numbers for the third quartile. So how do we do that? So first thing, I'm gonna add 63 plus 75. And when you add 63 plus 75, it gives you 138. I'm gonna divide that by 2, and then 138 divided by 2 is 69. So the first quartile is $69. The third quartile, I'm gonna take 79 plus 88. So 79 plus 88, you sum it up and you end up getting 156. Then you divide by 2. I'm sorry, it's 167. Sorry guys. I'm looking at my notes and I'm looking at the wrong numbers. So the next 79 plus 88 is 167. Divided by 2, you're going to end up getting 83.5. Don't forget that we're talking about $83.50. Okay, because it's money. Now let's go ahead and create our box plot. Here, I'm going to start at 60 because remember my least value is 61, so I don't have to start from 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So I'm going to go 60, 70, 80, 90, and 100. We are talking about babysitting earnings, so that's going to be my title. And I'm going to call it babysitting earnings. And then on the bottom, what are we talking about? And yes, the title should be centered, but right now my board is only so big and it makes me lose track of how big am I going to write or what have you. So on the bottom, you can say amount, you can say dollars. I'm going to put amount and in a parentheses, I'm going to go ahead and put a $sign so we know that the person reading this understands that we're talking about a value, a numerical value that deals with money. So let's go ahead and do our box and whiskers plot. I'm going to erase this lines a little bit just so I can squeeze in because of my title. My board is only so big. So my least value is 61, guys. Locate 61 on the graph. Estimate where it's at. My first quartile is 69. Estimate where 69 is at. My next value is 78, which is the median. Estimate where that is at. Then my next value was 83.50. Estimate also a roundabout value of where it's at. And then the last value is 99, which is about over here. Remember, the first two dots and the last two dots create the whiskers. My box goes from my first quartile to my third quartile. And don't forget also to put a line on the median as well. Okay? So there you have it. Here's my box and whiskers plot. Now the IQR, remember that we said IQR is the difference between the third quartile and the first quartile. So the third quartile is 83.50. My first quartile is $69. So if I find the difference between $83.50 and $69, it's $14.50. So $14.50. Now my range is the difference from the greatest value, which is 99 minus 61, and then 99 minus 61 equals what? So it's going to equal 38, okay? So the difference between 99 and 61 is 38. Don't forget that we're talking about dollar values. And there you go. Just make sure that your math makes sense. Find the difference between 83.50 and 69. It's 14.50. And then 99 minus 61, which is 83. So there you have it, guys. Here's the box and whiskers plot. This is all the data that you need. You're going to do 2 problems. And inshallah, you'll find it easy. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to come to class, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.